I'm building a story-based adventure map that covers just over a 3 million block area. Discover the source of the dark magic that has taken hold of a mysterious island by following the story of a fallen hero. By completing challenges throughout the land, you can restore it to its former splendor. I used World Painter to create the island. World Painter is an amazing tool that allows you to design a Minecraft world without having to place things block by block. It's linked in the description. And though I'm using some tools like World Edit and World Painter to help me build this map, it's going to be completely vanilla survival to play. No mods, no data or texture packs needed. All you need to do is download the map. I'm Jade the Willow, and let me introduce you to the story. Imagine you're sailing on your boat, enjoying a sunny afternoon when the breeze picks up. Then dark clouds appear on the horizon. Scrambling around, you prepare for a storm. When you turn your boat to head back to shore, it's not there. All you can see is a thick fog. It's strange weather, and there's something on the wind, something off, a little tangy. While you hesitate, the fog rolls toward you and the wind whips around, splashing salt water in your face. The storm pushes your boat to where you thought the shore was. As your boat sails into the mist and it becomes eerily quiet, all you hear is the patter of the rain and swish of waves. Strange weather indeed. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves in terms of builds. The first thing we're going to make in our adventure map is the fog wall. I'm going to use some World Edit brushes and we'll just place them over the water like so. I'm liking it so far, but it's a little too white. It's too much like a happy cloud and we don't want happy. So I'm going to put in a light gray wool instead. It needs to be taller. Right now it looks like I can just jump over it. And I might change out the white stained glass too. Guys, look at how good this looks. I am so happy with how it turned out. I like how it has all of the light and shadow bits so it looks more dynamic and like the fog is rolling in. It's tall enough now that it's very ominous. I changed out the white stained glass for some light gray stained glass and light gray concrete. It looks much more foreboding now. This goes all the way around the island. In some places it's closer to the shore and in some places you really can't see it at all. I just need to go around though and bring out all of these rolly bits. Most of the fog wall is more flat, so that needs to be fixed, but otherwise it's pretty good. And what about our boat? We didn't just surf in on our bellies. We just need a one-person sailing vessel, something simple, and then when you open the world for the first time, this will be your spawn location. It'll have everything you need to get started, a little book and quill to explain how you got here, and I want it on the ocean side of these little islands so that you have to trudge through them when you start before you get into anything, just so there's a little bit more of interacting with the environment before you just blaze on ahead. So we also need to add in a little rock so that the boat can run into it. It's time for an outfit change. I'm in tropical build mode and I want something better for an adventure. There we go. Now I can continue on. Squinting, you start to see land take shape in the mist. Relieved, you sail your boat towards it. However, as you get closer, you realize this isn't your shoreline. It's hard to see through the fog, but you believe you can make out pine trees. You pitch forward suddenly and land sprawled as your boat hits a rock and your breath is knocked out of you. You see stars and take a big gasp. As you push yourself up, you realize that the boat has stopped swaying and the world begins to light up as the sun warms your back. You look around. The fog has drawn away, and ahead of you lies an unknown island. Here's where things get interesting. Remember when I said there would be challenges you need to complete to restore the land? That means we are going to be building 2 versions of everything. Yikes. There will be the dark magic infused builds, which is what you will first see when you arrive on the island, and then the original version, which will have warm tones and more colors. Here is my time lapse that I titled Tower Struggles. But before we get to that, let me explain the mechanics a little bit. As I mentioned, there will be 2 versions of each build. The idea for this world is that you are restoring it. The life of the island has been drained. In each building, there will be a clue to the history and how they got to this point, and how to save the island. As you go along and discover the story and complete the quests, command blocks will paste in the restored versions. The place will still have a bit of an abandoned feeling because nobody's lived here for years, so it won't be back to its bustling atmosphere, but it'll be a place that people can now return to. So, Tower Struggles. I decided I'd go for a bit of a general elven theme. I thought with the dark magic being everywhere, having something that was maybe a little more goofy might not translate well. I thought the general curves and points you see a lot in fantasy elven architecture would lend itself well to both an evil and good version, as each color palette would help pull out the different feelings. I'm pausing the time lapse to explain what's going on in my brain. I do a lot of circular towers, so I'm trying to do something a little different, and I said to myself, you know what would be fun? A hexagon. It's not working well, which is why I paused the time lapse, because I was struggling with how to make a hexagon, and I figured you don't need to see that. It was pretty boring. But I'm still having the same problems that I was with the other towers, and I think what's happening is that what I want to do isn't well suited for this scale. So I have my hexagon, but some sides are even and some sides are odd, so decorating it is going to be weird. And I like the top of this tower, even though it's kind of Minas Morgul from Lord of the Rings, but you can see that this design has a 4-point tower and the hexagon has 6. Obviously. But even if I did this with more sides, the 4-point top, it's not going to work since the hexagon doesn't really have 6 points. It has 4 with 2 curvy 2-block points. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm going to experiment some more. That's what I'm going to do. You've fallen forward and are pulling yourself back up, noticing that the fog has receded when, ta-da! This rather subdued tower greets you. Once you complete the challenges, you will see a tower that looks like this, but obviously not floating in the air. Our dark magic tower uses mostly grayscale blocks to show that the light has been sapped out of the area, but our, I was gonna say healthy tower, just eat your vegetables and you'll be feeling better in no time, little tower. Anyway, our good tower version has warm colors, so it feels inviting and sure, healthy. We have more vibrant roof colors, and even though the architecture is the same, it just looks a little softer. We'll build up the nature areas throughout the island as we go, so we won't do it in one big chunk, and hopefully that will leave room for inspiration to strike, so we can come back and fix and add things as we come up with better or different ideas. So for this video, I just want to give a little hint and give our tower at least a little bit of a backdrop. And if you're enjoying the video so far, consider bopping that like and subscribe button. First, some trees, then some ground that looks all gross like it's been drained of life, some dead trees, dead coral, dead bushes, a few rocks, and an old path, and voila, we have a backdrop. Look guys, particles! I'm so excited! I made a particle effect. I think this is the first time I used a command block this successfully, and maybe that doesn't instill you with a lot of confidence for this adventure map, but look how great this turned out. It's so cool. These particles are from the basalt delta biome from the nether, so anytime you approach a building that's in its dark magic state, it's going to have these particles floating around it. And I'm so excited. And then as you walk away from the tower, the particles will disappear. So this is how I did the particles. I have a repeating command block here, and this is the command I use, /particle, and then white ash is for the basalt delta. The yellow is the coordinates around which the particles form, the center point, and the green is how far from the center spot the particles form. Apparently it's not a block for block ratio, so I just experimented a little until I found something that worked. 0 is for how fast the particles spawn. It's not relevant for this type, so it's just at 0. And then the orange 1000 is how many particles spawn every time the command block is triggered. Again, I just played around until I found something that worked, and I thought this much would be good. It's not too in your face, but it's definitely noticeable. And then I just have this little redstone circuit to power the command block. Other than the particle effects, there's a few more command blocks we have to set up. So presumably you head to this tower first, since it'll be the first thing you see. Then, if you head up over the broken stair parts, you'll come to this little study area. By reading this book, which will introduce you to the fallen hero character, it will give you a wind charge. You can take a moment to read the story if you'd like. So I thought the wind charge would be fun because it's new to the game and it's much more magical than a bow and arrow. And you will get a wind charge every time you flip through the book, which I suppose might be a problem farther down the line if you take your wind charges and continue to explore. But anyway, So if you're heading to the top, you'll see on your way up probably this target block. You might take a moment to gaze out at the surrounding area because it's cool and it'll be your first good vantage point. But you'll come back to the target block either way probably, I'm sure. Theoretically, the only way you'll be able to hit the target block is by reading the story and getting that wind charge. So if you zoom past the lectern, hopefully this should encourage you to go back and inspect everything in the tower a little bit more closely. When you hit the target block with the wind charge, three things happen. First, Dawnfire, the sword mentioned in the book, will drop from the dropper. Like this, it's enchanted, and this will be the main tool you'll use throughout your adventure. Second, you'll hear that magical sound, which is amethyst chimes. And third, the good version of the tower will be pasted in, which I think you can really only do once. So I will show you at some point when I make a test world to make sure everything's all working, but for now I will show you at the end of the video what the good version looks like. The command blocks are hidden up here in the tower. Right now the paste command is doing a give command so that I know it's working. The sound command block is set up like this. So play sound is the command for sound effects. Then you choose the sound you want, the source of the sound. Both block and ambient worked, so I went with ambient because I think it's a cooler word. I have it set up to play for all players, originating from the command block, which is the green squigglies, that's what they mean. And then the volume or distance from the block that the sound can be heard. That part is still a little unclear to me, but it's working, so I'm not concerned. When the good tower is pasted in, it will also restore some of the green areas around, replacing dead bushes with flowers and mycelium with grass, and so on. This tower is pretty simple to get through and restore, and the challenge is extremely basic, but I want it to be that way because it's your introduction to the world and how it works, like a tutorial. As you go along, you'll get new tools or armor or access to workstations that you can use to become stronger and get better equipped. For example, this tower has a pair of leather boots, but in the future you might find iron boots, an enchantment table, and books to enchant it. The good version of the island is going to look something like this. I've swapped out most of the elements. We have flowers instead of dead things, and I added a lot more greenery. I replaced the mycelium with moss, which I think was a good call, and the path is much more cheery. I'm in a similar situation with the dark magic infused landscaping though. I feel like it's missing something. Maybe in the next episode we'll have to come up with some sort of fantasy tree. I love the difference between the two contrasting towers. I think it makes a huge difference in the feeling of the area. The place still has a bit of an abandoned feel, which I think it should. The dark magic drove everyone away. It didn't turn them into statues. So just because the dark magic is gone doesn't mean everybody all of a sudden poofed back. In future videos, you can look forward to a castle, a city, some cool forest groves, ruins, and more. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye!